4, 3, 2, 1. CTS PCPC. CTS Podcast Pop Culture.
Wow, that was really bad. That
Episode 21.
I'm
Lucky number 21. Blackjack.
not
So
lucky.
Here's the deal.
We've been off for a few weeks.
And it's Henry's fault.
It's
He's
my
been
fault. My apologies.
He went to Russia, Australia, China, North Korea.
Former Yugoslavia.
Oh.
Former
Yeah, so Henry's bad. We'll
basically
start off
my
with
fault.
That. No, but so
we've missed a couple things, namely episodes 2, 3, and 4 of Loki, and like 8, 9, 10 of Bad Batch, or 9, 10, 11,
yes,
something like that.
Yes.
So we'll start out with Loki, probably. What are your thoughts on the series so far, since we really haven't talked about it on the podcast?
So I think this last episode here's my overall ranking. Episode 2. So okay, episode 4 is my favorite. Episode 1 is behind it. Episode 1 is behind it. Episode 2 is behind that, and then episode 3 is probably last.
I would agree with you on those rankings. That's where I'd put them too.
It's because I'm always right. And I'm the smartest
actually,
person you know.
just a heads up, I'm going to be switching up my rankings.
Okay.
We're going to go 4, 2, 1, 3.
Okay, just shush. No, but we were talking off the podcast the other day, and you had mentioned that some people were criticizing the third episode because nothing happened, is what they said,
They
right?
thought, they were like, it didn't progress the story, and
Which is just kind of weird, right?
I don't think it's true.
So I think it's probably I think it didn't progress the story as much as the other episodes did, but it's really unfair to compare a series against itself. I've always thought that's weird when someone compares a series against itself, and I'm someone that will give each episode a ranking and be completely honest when I don't like an episode. But to say that I just don't like that criticism, right? Saying something's not progressing the story is just weird because you can't see in the future and you don't know what you're talking about. For all we know, that could have been setting up the entire plot for the rest of the series.
Most important.
It's just such a weird criticism. People can't see in the future, and they just think this episode had nothing to do with what we're ever gonna see ever again. It's just kind of weird. I don't know.
I also think it didn't progress the plot as much. If you want to say it didn't progress the plot. But that's not the only part of the story, right? Character development, all those things, that's also part of the story. And I think it did that. That's the longest, just kind of sit down, talking, learning about the characters and all that stuff that we've had in any of the other episodes. And I thought that did a lot to progress, their character development and stuff. So, yeah, weird. I don't know. I didn't agree with that criticism of it. I enjoyed it. I know I ranked episode 3 last. We both did, but I really enjoyed it. It was good.
Yeah, I still would have given it probably a 7.9 or 8, which is a good score.
But the rest...
And that's the worst ranking is an 8.
While we're talking about scores, IGN gave episode 4 of Loki a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, it's just weird. IGN's always and I've watched some of their reviews of video games too.
For reference, IGN gave Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet, an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, and IGN's reviews, I don't know if anyone's ever really seen them, but I've actually watched a lot of their reviews for movies and games. And just some of the coldest takes I've ever seen of every single take they give is just weird. And you just scroll down in the comments and no one agrees with the reviewer ever because it's all just bizarre takes from someone that probably hasn't watched the other episodes, but is okay, I didn't like this episode because this happened and this didn't happen and it didn't meet my expectations and blah, 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 blah. That's who they have writing these. It's like some 45-year-old guy who's only seen the first 30 minutes of the episode that decides to get on his computer and use big words and then give a bad review. It's all these people, and they do the same with games and every other type of media. It's so annoying.
Wasn't IGN the one that they couldn't beat the tutorial for a game, and so they gave it a bad review?
What
Do you
game
remember
was
that?
it?
I think it was
know.
Wasn't it Cuphead?
It may have been.
Or something like that. And granted, Cuphead is an impossible game, but that's why it's good. Like, that's what makes it fun, is that it's so difficult. And so for you to, like, be bad at the video game and not beat the tutorial.
I remember that, but I think it was like an even bigger. I remember
it might
a criticism
not have
of
been
like
Cuphead.
that.
It was,
I think it was like a newer game that they just thought was too hard or something like that.
yeah.
That's one of their criticisms, is that game can be too hard.
It was just like they couldn't double jump over some obstacle, and they were like, because we were incompetent, like, we're giving it a bad score. But regardless, let's talk about some of the plot of these episodes that we've missed.
So what did I rank? I said 4, 2, 3, right?
You said 4, 1, 2, 3.
4, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
That's right. So we'll start with the second episode. See, I loved episode 2 so much. I may switch it with 1, but I liked episode
Nope,
2
you
because
can't do that.
although I really liked episode 2, I will say there wasn't like a lot of actiony stuff, but I think that's why I liked it. Because I thought it was really cool, like that scene where they're sitting at a table and they're just like flipping through stuff. And I'm on the right episode, right? This is episode 2.
Yeah, episode 2 is the one where they figure out.
It felt
the
like
variant
good cop, bad
types,
cop,
and
detective.
It was
type
cool. It was
style.
kind of like a detective show, right? And they're like chasing the leads, and then Loki has the breakthrough where he's like, "Oh, she's hiding in Apocalypse."
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. And there's that moment. What I've really liked about Loki is it's like really good acting. Like, I think better than at least from Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson.
Yeah, both of them are carrying, dude.
And
they're so good.
Like, there's been so many little moments. Like, there's the moment when they're investigating the apocalypse things, and they go and he sees, like, he goes to Ragnarok and sees like no survivors, and you see him like start kind of freaking out, like he tears up and is like really like upset about it, and then he like goes to Owen Wilson and shows him the discovery, and like he passes it by like it didn't bother him. But I think it speaks to Tom Hiddleston's strength as an actor that he kind of like convincingly like flips that, plays a character that can flip between like super moved and upset and kind of unbothered.
Yeah, and my favorite scene actually so far came from Owen Wilson when he it's in episode 4, spoilers, but when what's her face walks into the room, the judge's name,
Renslayer,
yeah,
Ramona Renslayer.
She walks into the room and he's like, he calls her out for all of it being like fake.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? I could be riding a jet ski right now or something like that. Maybe I was riding a jet ski. I thought his character arc was so cool, and they built like a really cool friendship between him and Loki, which I thought was really dank. Like, and it's like it's weird because if you watch, it's just funny how Tom Hiddleston is able to, for playing a character that lies all the time, it's funny because like when he tells the truth, you can kind of tell, even if you hadn't seen the other scenes, like you can almost tell when he's being genuine and when he's lying just as the character.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a really weird tell. But you could kind of just tell that Loki didn't have anything up his sleeve when he was telling Owen Wilson about what had happened.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool. Like you could just tell that he was being genuine, even for a character that is supposed to be really bad. Is not
very genuine. Yeah. So episode 2 was the apocalypse ones when they go to the shopping mall that's in the hurricane, and you meet Lady Loki for the first time, and it's cool. She's like got the like Scarlet Witch powers where she's controlling people like where she can get inside their heads, which is not something that kind of our main Loki can do. So I liked that they switched it up a little bit on that. What else? Because that's where because they start out at the fair, right? In episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's crazy. That was so long ago. Yeah, I really enjoyed that episode. I'd say I loved another part that I really liked is when they go to Pompeii.
Yeah, that was
They
cool.
go to Pompeii, and he's like, you're always like the typical time travel, like, don't interact, like, you don't want to. And like, we've seen it before when people go to like events where, like, kind of apocalyptic events where they're like, they feel bad for the people that are gonna die or whatever, and Loki's just like, you guys are all gonna die. Like, it's funny, like, it's humorous, the way he does it, and I really liked that part. Okay, on to episode 3, which is the one that people didn't like very much.
Yeah, I think there's some valid criticisms of the episode. I think probably my biggest criticism is I think this was really a character development episode. It's introducing us to Lady Loki. Sylvie is her name. And I don't know. I guess I don't really have any valid criticisms of the episode other than we didn't see much happen. And what we did see happen is kind of just like foregone by the events of episode 4, which I thought was kind of weird. But I mean, I don't really, like I said, I gave it like a 7.8 or something like that.
Yeah, I think I liked it. It was, I don't know, it was kind of cool to see like just the conversations. I liked that a lot. I'm a big fan of kind of character development, and I would, if you just wanted to like have 2 characters talk for like the entire episode, which this kind of was, like, I'm here for it, especially if they're like growing and having that discussion. I do think and this is a little bit on to episode 4, they start episode 4 with her getting taken, like Sylvie getting taken by the TVA. I might have put that in episode 3.
Yeah.
As part of the backstory, just so you could see, like, so we figured it out there, because I didn't need it at the start of episode 4. Like, I didn't hate it there, but if you put it in episode 3, I think people would have probably had less criticism of the episode. But yeah, solid episode all in all. I think it was, I legitimately at the end thought, oh, they might, like, if I hadn't seen trailer footage from different parts, that like if they could just kind of maybe end it and bring a new variant, or like, I don't know how they're gonna escape this. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah. I guess I didn't really. The only reason my score wasn't higher is because I didn't really see anything exceptional happen, but it's still a good score.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, I think Loki's far and away the best of the 3. I actually don't even think, like, I had given really good ratings to some of the episodes of WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but after seeing Loki, it's kind of like upped my standards a little bit.
Either the Loki scores have to be higher, those scores have to be lower.
Yeah. And I think it probably brings my scores for those ones down a little bit lower, just because every episode of Loki has been so good.
Yeah.
And there were some really, and WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think both had, 50% of the episodes were, I would say, like, exceptional. So if there's like 4 categories, they were probably in the highest, like 50% of the episodes. But I think Loki, every episode except for 3 so far. So 1 out of 4 has not been.
And even 3 I'd put above a majority of episodes of WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So yeah, it's been super good. But episode 4, that's the big one. That's the newest one. We're caught up. What were your thoughts specifically on kind of plot wise what happened in this episode?
So I think Owen Wilson gets what do they call it? Pruned?
Pruned, yeah.
Yeah, he gets pruned with like a little sword thing.
Or zapper. Yeah.
I think he'll come back though, because it's kind of a weird. It's
Yeah,
kind of a
let's
weird
go
place
from the start,
to kill. Oh, you want to go
and
from the start?
then
Okay.
we can build up to the reveal at the end.
So you do the start.
Okay. So we start out and we're back on the planet from episode 3 with Loki and Lady Loki, and they're talking, and we cut back to the TVA, and something happens. Like there's a timeline branch that it's shooting for. Like they're like, oh, this is the craziest thing we've ever seen. Like whatever. And so they find them on the timeline, even though they're not supposed to be able to in an apocalypse. And what that event was, we can only speculate. People think that Owen Wilson's character seemed to think that Loki fell in love with himself. I don't know if it's romantic. I think it's more like platonic, or not platonic, but just like caring about somebody other than himself in a way, even though it's himself.
I think it's more than that,
You think
because
it's romantic?
I think he cares about like Thor. You know, I think
That's true.
I think he cares about Asgard, but
Yeah,
maybe
so
it's like he's never felt someone care for him.
Yeah.
So that's what it could be.
I could see that. Yeah. So that happens. That allows the TVA to locate them. They go and get them out, and then they're back in the TVA, and they get separated, and Owen Wilson is interrogating Loki. And they throw him. They do the little thing with the time loop. I thought that was cool, where they throw him into with I can't remember her name, but Jamie Alexander.
Yeah, I don't remember her
I
name.
think Jamie Alexander who's Lady Sif, where she keeps coming in and beating up Loki over and over again, which I thought was funny. I was like the kind of Groundhog Day, like looping thing.
Yeah.
Is I think interesting. And so then finally he like admits that he did something wrong or whatever, and Owen Wilson comes and gets him, and Loki tries to tell him what he's learned from Lady Loki, or Sylvie, that all of the agents of the TVA are actually variants. They weren't created by the timekeepers. They weren't whatever. And tells him that, and Mobius doesn't believe him and throws him back in the thing and goes to meet with Renslayer. Let's see what else happened chronologically. And then we cut to Lady Loki, and she's talking to one of the other TVA agents who she had enchanted before, and shows her a memory of kind of her past life. And so this agent, the one that originally caught Loki, is like, has a realization that like the TVA is not real. And so they come together, and they end up like Renslayer or Mobius steals what are those little things, like the little Tempads, do they call them?
That's what it's called. Yeah.
He steals that from Renslayer and watches a video and realizes that she lied about what happened to the agent that Lady Loki had kidnapped in episode 2, and that they actually are all variant. So he goes and gets Loki, and then now we're kind of back to what you were talking about.
Yeah. That was a pretty good summary. Not bad. Good job. So, back to where I was talking about, which is you left on the part where they're about to go
where Mobius comes and grabs Loki.
Yeah, so Mobius grabs Loki. He gets pruned.
Yeah,
and then
Renslayer comes in, right, and realizes.
And she says, "I'm gonna take them to the timekeepers." They go into the timekeepers' room, which is a super cool scene. There's like you disobeyed the time values of time.
We get to see the timekeepers for real now.
And they're like a bunch of older alien-looking people.
3 like lizard dudes that the one has the big mustache. Let's keep talking and then I'll ask the question.
And so they're talking to the timekeepers. a fight ensues between Loki, Sylvie, and these time guards, including Renslayer. Renslayer kind of gets beat up, and as Loki like turns away from her to talk to Sylvie.
Well, hold on. We gotta go because Sylvie gets her sword back, throws it at the timekeeper, and cuts the like top timekeeper's head off.
That happened
Right, this is
first.
important. Yeah. 'Cause
That happened before Renslayer.
before Renslayer zaps Loki. Yeah, 100%. Because Loki saw the head.
I don't think I think Renslayer attacks before the timekeeper's heads are cut off, or before his head is cut off, because she would have seen what has actually happened with the TVA. She would have seen that they're just robots. So unless she knew, but I think it's before. I think that
No.
she fights Sylvie and Loki before Sylvie throws the sword and kills the timekeeper.
They fight,
Kills.
but are you talking about like because Loki doesn't get pruned before the head gets cut off?
Yeah, right.
It's after. 100%.
on.
100%. Because they're fighting. They
Wait, so Renslayer just knew that they were robots?
I don't know, because Renslayer was like knocked out, and that's when Sylvie like gets her sword back and cuts off the timekeeper's head.
Huh. I don't know. I think that chronology is right. I'd have to rewatch it. Anyways, the timekeepers are revealed to be robots.
Like animatronics, like
Yeah.
you're
Like a puppeteers sort of. Not a puppeteer, puppets. Just puppets.
yeah.
Loki gets pruned, and that's sort of the end of it. And then we get cutscene.
Yeah, that's the end of the episode, and then there's a post-credit scene.
Yeah, and Loki is like laying on the ground. He's like, am I dead? Or what does he say?
Like basically that, right? He's like, am I dead? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then he sits up, and somebody off camera goes like, oh, like you will be dead if you don't get up and come with us. And it like cuts to him, and there's 4 different versions of Loki standing there, and then it ends.
Yeah. So it was a really good episode. It was really cool. I enjoyed it. I probably would have given it like a 9 or 9.2.
Yeah, I thought that was the best episode. That was the best episode of like Marvel TV out of any of the shows
For sure.
so far.
By a long shot.
Which bodes well, I think, for the last 2 episodes. Hopefully they keep it up and get better. But
yeah.
I was gonna say, when they came into the like timekeeper's room, did you have like a suspicion that there was anything going on, like anything out of the ordinary, or did you think those were the timekeepers?
It's a good question. I don't know. Like, I guess I really didn't know what was. I thought they were the timekeepers. I mean, I didn't really notice. If you're asking if I noticed any tells, I didn't notice any tells.
When they came in, I was like, and started talking, and it like zoomed in on the dude with the like, not the main middle guy, but the dude with like the big like lizard mustache thing.
Yeah, him.
I was like, that looks kind of sketchy. And then
he does kind of
from then
like,
on, I was like,
yeah.
this is weird. Like, I'm picking up like serious Wizard of Oz vibes. Like that there's somebody like behind the curtain here. And yeah, so I thought that I liked the reveal that they were robots. Hopefully they follow through and there's somebody cool like later. Galactus. I don't know how he fits in.
Yeah, I don't know either. Anyways,
any predictions for the next couple episodes, or just gonna see where it goes?
I don't really have any predictions. I just don't know. Like, I would assume Owen Wilson comes back and saves the day.
Yeah, that's why we think Owen Wilson comes back, because we saw the other versions of Loki.
Yeah. So that'll probably happen.
Do you think one of the Owen Wilson variants is Lightning McQueen?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's like this big thing on Instagram that was like, Owen Wilson will not use his classic wow phrase. Because you know how Owen Wilson does
he
that.
always says wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He has had a couple of like hows that sound pretty similar.
Yeah,
They're the
yeah.
same, so I wonder if they do that.
It's weird they wouldn't just have him do it. Because he does it in like all of his movies. No, but Yeah, it was pretty cool. Let's talk about
Now, Bad
Bad
Batch.
Batch.
That's the other one.
the return of one of my favorite characters in Clone Wars.
Toto.
Okay. He's probably the most annoying. No, Cad Bane. He's so dank.
That is not the reveal I expected at the end of that episode.
Yeah, it's just surprising, right? Because if you remember in Clone Wars, the last time we saw him was season 4. There's
it
been
was a long time
4
ago.
seasons. It's been like 7 or 8 years or something
Mhm.
that we went without Cad Bane.
Well, and there was even that, like, the unreleased, like, kind of concept video of, like, there were storyboards of Boba Fett and Cad Bane fighting, and Boba kills Cad Bane, and everyone was kind of like, oh, that must mean that, like, Cad Bane's dead, even though it wasn't in anything officially. But yeah, that reveal at the end when he, like, he's at the ship and it's like, oh, like, who is it? Like, it's got to be somebody. And then you hear his voice, or like the Western music kind of
he
starts
has a
playing.
classic
and
voice. Cad Bane has one of the best voices in Clone Wars. Just
Mhm.
just
Like
the
this
older West,
twang.
like, yeah. And he's just, it's funny because Dave Filoni really likes making his Star Wars, like putting like a Western spin on almost everything, or almost every big character will get their like a Western spin on one of, like in Clone Wars, there's quite a few where, or even Mandalorian, where it's just like a stare down between two characters and they like have their
Mhm.
gun on their hip and it's like pew pew.
Yeah, right. Because that was Dave Filoni's episode too that he directed. Because that was the Ahsoka episode that there was like
Mm-hmm.
a legit shootout between those two characters. Yeah, that was really cool. And then, what else? Because then the next episode is Omega escaping.
Yeah,
from Cad
during
Bane.
that episode, Omega gets kidnapped by Cad
Yeah,
Bane,
Cad Bane
who's
takes her.
attempting to collect a bounty that was
Yep.
put out by the Geonosian, by one of the Geonosians.
The Kaminoans.
Yeah,
Geonosians
Kaminoans.
got kind of
They're
nerfed.
bugs. Yeah, by one of the Geonosians, who wanted to rescue Omega, actually, from the other Geonosians.
Kaminoans.
Oh my gosh,
Sorry,
I did it
sorry.
again? That's
Like
weird.
3 times, yeah. But I wasn't gonna say anything because we know. But
One of the Kaminoans was looking to rescue Omega from the other Kaminoans. She hired
Nala say.
Fennec Shand
Yep.
to capture Omega, and Cad Bane was hired by the Kaminoan government, the prime minister, to capture
Lama Su.
Omega.
I can't remember their names.
In the end, next episode, Omega gets recovered by the Bad Batch.
We find out why they want her too, because she has pure first generation DNA. So she has
Yeah.
like original Django DNA. Like
which is pretty dank.
yeah, so like her and Boba Fett are like siblings.
It's kind of weird to think that we've like learned so much about, Jango Fett. We've learned he was just like a really good bounty hunter, and his DNA was used for the clones, and he was supposed to be like a really, a sharpshooter, like a really good warrior. But we haven't really learned about him. We've learned a lot about Boba Fett, and even in the Clone Wars, we see a lot of Boba. But Jango Fett's a character that we really haven't learned a lot of. Like, I wish we could have learned more about Jango Fett's character, because even in the prequels, we see him a little bit in Clone Wars, and then we just see him get murked by
Yeah,
Mace Windu.
Mace takes his head off.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird, but I've liked pretty much every episode of Bad Batch.
It feels very much like Clone Wars, which isn't a bad thing, but like I think I saw some people complaining about it. They're like, "Oh, it's just Clone Wars." And it's like, yeah, that's why the first episode started with the Clone Wars logo being burned away to reveal the Bad Batch logo. Like, it's an extension of Clone Wars. So I don't know if that's
Yeah, I agree. I think they could have made it a little bit different, but I'm not complaining.
yeah.
I think it could have been a little bit more Bad Batch-y. And the only reason I say it's sort of like Clone Wars is because we get have you seen the last episode?
Yeah, I've seen the latest.
Is because we see, like, the last episode, for example. It's like sort of like an episode that's a side mission. that doesn't necessarily play into the plot, which I don't think is bad. Like I said, I love those types of episodes in Clone Wars, like these spin-off episodes where you know they're doing some task or some seemingly mundane thing. I don't mind those types of episodes. I don't know. I think it's going to be cool. I think it's going to continue getting better. We haven't talked about this on the podcast yet. There were people complaining about the amount of, shoot, I can't think of the word again. When a character makes a special appearance in something.
Cameos.
The amount of cameos in Bad Batch. And they're like, oh, this is negative to the story development. We don't get to learn about the Bad Batch as much. I'm like, we saw Rex for like 4 on-screen minutes.
Yeah.
Like speaking, at least.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of. It's just some of the criticisms people make are so weird. I don't know. It's just really annoying.
Yeah, I've liked this so far too. What if we see a live action Omega?
Oof, that'd be
Imagine
nuts.
in like Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty crazy, dude. That'd be pretty dank.
'Cause she'd be like probably just younger than Boba.
Boba's
No.
pretty old. Here's my question. Does Boba age quicker?
No. He's an unmodified clone. And so is
Omega.
Omega. So they'd be similar ages.
They kind of messed up the timeline with Rex then. Because
You
we
think?
see him in episode 3 of Star Wars. We see him in Empire Strikes Back. So they kind of messed up because he would be dead. Rex would be so dead by that time. He's really old when we see him in episode 3, but
Whoa. Episode 3 of what?
Star Wars?
Episode 3
Empire Strikes Back?
Episode 3 takes place before. No, episode 3.
Or, I'm sorry, episode 6.
Oh.
Episode 6.
Yeah.
He's really old, but he would be dead. So it's
Would
kind
he?
of weird.
You think? Because we see him in Rebels. Right? He's in Rebels.
Even then, how long is Rebels after the Clone Wars?
Rebels is just before the original trilogy.
So
because
19 years?
Yeah, I mean, because it ends like it's right around the start of the original trilogy. So then you've got like a few years between episode 6 and then. So I don't know. I don't think that's too crazy. It's hard to like. They're not super consistent on how the accelerated aging works because it's like they get to adults super quick and then they just stop. Like they go to normal speed aging, but I don't know. It doesn't take me out of it that much to deal with that. I've really enjoyed Bad Batch. It's just kind of a laid back, like there's not much theory stuff to do, and it's more about just kind of being along for the ride.
Well, how about that scene where Omega is like in the cloning facility, in the old medical cloning facility, and there's like that alien looking figure? That was kind of weird.
I think it's just Kaminoan clones, like failed Kaminoan clones.
Oh, I think so too, but it was just like kind of
it was kind of weird. And of course, like everyone on the internet, the first thing they jumped on was, "Oh, is it Snoke? Like, is that Snoke clones?" And it's like, no.
I think in Mandalorian it probably was.
You think?
Or the technology that Palpatine was
using,
creating.
Yeah, probably. But it was because that dude that in the Mandalorian, that dude had like a Kaminoan patch. Like the scientist, the head scientist had a Kaminoan patch.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't know that?
He in the Mandalorian, he had a Kaminoan patch.
Mm-hmm.
Really? I didn't know that.
So who knows?
What do you think about Snoke's creation? Like, I feel like he could have been such a cooler Sith if he had, actually been trained by Palpatine, or he had actually. I feel like that whole cloning thing was kind of do it for Palpatine if you need to, but Snoke's kind of a weird one. Like a cloning of Snoke, that's his creation, that's his arc, as he was just a clone. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of weird to me.
Yeah, I agree. I don't I'm not a huge clone fan. Like as an explanation,
It's kind of
for
an
stuff,
easy way out, I think.
Yeah, like I'd rather, especially when there's like the established rules about like the rule of two and stuff. Then it's like, but if you can just clone people, like, is there really a rule of two? Like, what for the Sith? Like, what's the? It does kind of break it, I think, a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I don't love it. I hope they can fix it a little bit and I think they will. Like, I already like kind of what they've done a little bit, just like sprinkling hints here and there. I think how cool would it be like with force sensitive clones if we got Star Killer at some point?
That'd be so nutty. It would take some serious cojones on the part of like Dave Filoni to add a character like Starkiller.
You'd have to. I bet you'd have to change it and like do it later, like in the timeline.
Probably, and he'd have to get nerfed. Like, I don't know.
Or if you put it later in the timeline, you don't have to nerf him. You can just like have him fight like at a crazy new enemy that we haven't seen. If it's like way in the future when they like,
yeah,
because Starkiller's insane.
Dude,
but
he like, yeah, I guess the video games aren't canon anyway, so they could kind of do it.
Are those ones canon?
No shot, because he like fights Vader and like 1v1s Vader.
True.
There's like a scene in the game where there's like an entire battalion of clone troopers rushing him, and he just goes like, and then just like lifts them all up and literally disintegrates this entire battalion of clone troopers.
That's true.
And then like Darth Vader's like standing behind him, and he just like shrugs it off and keeps walking. It's freaking dank.
Yeah.
I wish, you know what I was thinking the other day?
Mm-hmm.
I wish we could have seen more of how strong Palpatine was in live action.
I think we're gonna get that Acolyte series.
Ooh, yeah,
I think is gonna have young Palpatine. I forgot about that. And I bet since it's focused on the Sith, I bet we'll see some like cool young Palpatine, like super powerful stuff.
In Clone Wars, he murked every single time. Like he pulled. I guess the only time we really see him fight is when he just murks Maul and his apprentice, just destroys him, and Maul is like on the ground begging for his life.
Yeah.
In front of Palpatine. That was pretty sick. I mean, I guess we do see him fight Yoda.
But that one was weird because it was all that weird CGI stuff and
yeah.
But hopefully we get some good stuff. We're gonna get into more of that Star Wars stuff coming up pretty soon, because I think they delayed Mando 3.
Till
Did
when?
you hear that? Next winter.
Next year?
It's next winter.
Huh?
So
so not 2022 winter, 2023 winter.
Yeah, not like Book of Boba Fett coming out this year. Yeah, like 2022, 2023 winter.
That's a little weird. I don't know about that. That's kind of sketchy.
It's kind of a bummer, but
that's kind of really weird. A year delayed is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Kind of weird.
But who knows? Well, yeah, stuff's going to start coming out soon though. We've got Black Widow comes out this week. This Friday.
But you'll have to pay for it on Disney Plus, right?
Or to the theater, or go to the theater. Either way, we should have that.
I saw a couple of movies this past week. I saw Conjuring and A Quiet Place Part 2.
Yeah, the last movie I guess I've seen some of the new like Pixar, Disney movies that have come out, but the last movie I saw in theaters was Tenet, and that was like in August or something a while ago. So I'm excited to get back to the theater and be able to talk about some more movies and stuff other than just the Disney Plus stuff. Okay.
All right. Let's wrap it up.
Out of here.
CTS PC Peace.